What's going on, ladies and gents? It is your boy Gamma back with the lovely
Juju.
All right, guys. Kevin Samuels. I'm sure you heard the news by now. If you haven't, you're going to want to listen to this. And even if you did, we're going to talk about something, maybe in a way that you haven't heard yet. So lock and load, hit the subscribe button, like the video, and be ready to share your comments below.
Let's go.
So Juju.
Yes, sir.
Kevin Samuels, right?
Yeah.
Now, in the last, I say, year and a half to maybe 2 years,
Yes.
he has risen to become one of the faces of, I guess you can say, dating and relationship advice.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's been labeled as controversial in many ways.
Highly, yes.
Because he's very honest.
That he is.
Some people would say he's a little abrupt. He's a little aggressive.
Very
raw.
Yeah.
So many things you can say about him, but one thing for sure, he has made a mark in this YouTube space regarding relationships. And so we're going to talk about him because if you haven't heard the news, Kevin Samuels, YouTuber, 1.5 million subscribers.
Yeah.
1.5 million subscribers roughly, has died. And this news started circulating a few days ago by the time you guys hear this. However, it has been officially confirmed, not just by big YouTubers, not by his fellow content creators, but by actual media.
Yeah.
Big media platforms. That's kind of surprising. You know, wouldn't you say?
It very. Like NBC.
NBC, People Magazine.
Yeah.
Snopes, a few other platforms that shock me. And the reason why I say it's a little shocking, when you're on the grind, when you're on this rise, right?
Yeah.
They're always quiet. They never seem to reach out to help you when you're making moves and, you know, doing your thing. But as soon as something really bad happens,
negative, right?
All of a sudden, they know everything about you. They know your subscriber count. They know who you are, where you live, what you do.
Everything.
So I always find that interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, let's get into let's get into the story. So basically, what has been occurring, right? Since the rumor first hit the internet, which is now confirmed, we've had two really clear sides. One side, a lot of women have been celebrating. It's very tragic. It's very grim and in many ways disgusting to see this, right?
Right.
Because as we know, whether you believe in a God or not, but once you die,
there's no coming back.
There's no coming back, but you can't really answer or speak and say anything else. So the wages that we all pay for sin is death. And I kind of find it disturbing when you kind of see people dissing the dead and still talking about the person in many ways, in a way that they wouldn't had the person been alive. Right. So that's one group. And then you have those that are kind of mourning his death and they're, pouring support, etc.
Right.
And some of these people, again, were not really as supportive when he was alive.
Yeah.
So that's weird to me too. You know what I mean? Now, as far as this channel and what we do here, we're really not in the same path at all. So we don't talk about the same things per se. However, I have caught wind of who he is and, maybe watched a few of his live streams.
Right.
I didn't catch him live ever, but I've always watched like the replay, right?
Right.
And so, Juju, I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment. Initially, though, what was your thoughts? Like, I know he's been online now for several years, so maybe he's not as polished, or he wasn't as polished back when you first, caught wind of who he is and what he does. But what was your initial thoughts?
Me seeing his content, what I did see was just very controversial, very negative, I guess you could say.
Why? We got to put you on the spot. Yeah. Why was it controversial?
I know. I'm getting there.
We want to know.
Because what was put out was his, I guess, breakdown of women, like whether you call it grading of women, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like their physical features, talking about, their achievements, how it's not that, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Like to me, what was known was like the grading, like, oh, are you a 10? Are you a 6? Like that's, that stuck out to me as far as like the whole controversy like surrounding him.
Right.
So yeah, like a lot of women just weren't really feeling him for that.
Yeah. Okay, it's safe to say that, and I can understand why it's a little difficult as a female to digest any kind of information coming from a guy if it's presented in that way, right? He was very raw to the point, huge but. As a guy, I also have to say that what Kevin Samuels did, right, especially for women, because a lot of people looked at him as he's really helping men and he's only focused on men. He primarily interviewed women, from what I saw. I don't know if he ever did an interview with a man, but it seemed like he was really helping women, meaning he was kind of giving them a really raw, real look, inside scoop into the mind of a man. What most men are thinking and saying.
Right.
Not directly to females, not directly to women. But this is their thoughts. This is what they want. This is what they feel. So that controversy is twofold, right?
Right.
It's controversial maybe initially because, as you said, he uses an approach that many are not comfortable with. Like,
very
he'll straight
blunt.
up. Yeah, he'll be like, yo, you're like a 5 and you weigh this much. You're only this tall and nobody's going to really
it seems
chase
very
you.
Superficial.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of truth to it, though. And some of those truths, I think, are the kind that, makes people uncomfortable. We don't like to talk about it. We see it everywhere, though.
Right.
All these athletes, right? 6'5", right? Millions of dollars. And who do they tend to go for? They're not looking to date doctors and physicians and librarians. They often go for a very bubbly, lighthearted,
aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. So I'm not here to say it's he's right or he's wrong, but he was kind of that voice that spoke for many that remained silent, were afraid to speak because they would lose their positions and jobs, and so that's what I think he did, and he did it really well. Like, I didn't watch a lot of him. But I did watch enough to get a sense of what he was doing.
Right.
And, the only gripe I had, I think I caught something with, I think it was Shekinah. That's like T.I. and Tiny's friend. And he was a little bit raw, like the way he spoke with, at her.
Yeah.
I was like, he's doing a little too much. But outside of that, though.
He even spoke to Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, he spoke with Nicki Minaj. He spoke, but they got along though. They had a good
they weren't
combo.
butting heads or anything.
Yeah, my only issue was with Shekinah, but Nicki, and then he spoke with several other people from
others like Love and Hip Hop,
and online media personalities, and so he was really making his rounds, and he was becoming well known in this space, right?
Right.
And who knows how much bigger he would have became or gotten, but. The fact that he was just a regular guy, I know he's an image consultant, I believe. That's what he puts out there professionally. But what he was doing and what he's become was a relationship guru.
Yeah,
giving advice.
In that world, right.
It's very specific. He kind of focused in on black women.
Now, just to add, he has addressed men before, right? Before even turning his attention towards women, he was like giving like coaching 101s, holding like I guess meetings or meetups or whatever. So he was dealing with the men.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of people aren't aware of that because again, he really blew up when he turned his attention to women.
And that's the key word. I'm glad you said that. Blew up.
Yeah.
Like many YouTubers, you initially get on this platform and you're doing different things that you may have a personal interest in.
Right.
And then when something takes off, you really focus in or you double down on that.
Right.
And so that might have been the case with him, right?
Right.
Kind of like this channel. We had fun for a while talking about Simon and Portia.
Right.
People were like, yo, please talk about something else. I was like, nah. These guys are making headlines daily. And we were having a blast too,
having
with you
fun.
guys, the listeners, etc. So Kevin Samuels may have had the similar experience where he was trying to help maybe, like you said, primarily men or everyone. And from every race, etc. But then he found a niche and the need in a certain area, and that's what I feel took off. It wasn't that he was against black women, hated them. I didn't get that vibe. But he did speak very boldly and directly in a way that again is difficult for many to consume, primarily those that he's speaking about.
Right.
The last thing I wanted to say regarding that before we talk about his passing when it comes to information like the kind that he was presenting, you don't get that big. You don't get that many following unless those that are following you already share some of those beliefs.
That is true.
We can't put it on him, because I don't like when people say, yo, he was doing this and he was doing that. No, the followers have to already feel what you are saying in order to follow.
Right.
You know, no one's forcing this information. Like I said, I didn't watch too much of it because it wasn't really my lane. You know, and me and Juju, as you guys know, we're not in the situation where it applies to us as much as a lot of single people that are looking to date, etc. Again, you know, as much as you want to hate on this guy, you can't really be mad, because his following grew simply because the audience had to feel something. They had to be like, yo, he's hitting the nerve, he's speaking some truths, I agree or I disagree, I want to, you know, and that's how it works. So
that's true.
You gotta also be, and the reason why I'm saying this, Juju,
why's that?
A lot of people were celebrating when he passed. And I found out, you know, I really found that disturbing, because even if you don't agree with someone, right, as long as they're not attacking you physically or doing things that can destroy your life, you should kind of live and let live, right?
I agree.
You know, it's very few things that we all could agree on and say, yo, get them out of here.
Right,
you know, like if they're promoting abuse against children or speaking in ways that the people they're speaking about can't defend themselves, etc. There are very few things in life where we could all say, yo, this person needs to be banned, right?
Right.
But for the most part, whether you agree with him or not, I don't think he was doing anything to destroy any segment of our population.
I don't think so either. I have to agree, because, you know, don't get me wrong, there are content creators out there that their main goal, their main objective is to like destroy, obliterate like a certain group of people. So whether that's men or women, you know, race, like whatever, right?
Right.
So with Kevin Samuels, I feel like he just more.
It was the approach.
That
a lot of people had issues with.
Like he was holding a magnifying glass to like the relationship dynamics, right? Between men and women.
Yeah.
Right. And he, from a man's standpoint, is just calling it out as it is for the most part, you know, in terms of how men view the opposite sex. So yeah, I it wasn't like he was name calling or bashing women, like, oh no, all women are this and that. Like there was none of that.
Approach at all, right? It was his approach was difficult to digest, you know, because again, there's a lot of sensitive areas and where, you know, he spoke and what he touched on, I should say.
Like looks. Yeah, that is a very sensitive topic.
A lot of people don't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
But if it is, then we should talk about it, right?
Right.
We're not gonna pretend that like Hollywood doesn't promote looks. Like, you know, fame and fortune isn't often associated with looking a certain way.
Right.
Whether you naturally look like that or you get the money and then you shave yourself and cut and you know, slice and dice yourself to look a certain way. Yeah. But yeah, he was speaking to the vanity aspect that a lot of people had issues with. Yeah. But again, like you said, Juju, he wasn't like some of these content creators that are outright against a certain group of our population. We have those, by the way. There are people who let it be known, like, I don't like XYZ. You fill in the blank. I hate them. They don't need to exist. They should be destroyed. And their entire goal is to shame, you know, to disparage and to do everything possible to make that certain group look
horrible.
Pathetic,
horrible.
You know, and even if there are issues, and the reason why I'm being general is because there's so many out there.
There's so many.
It doesn't apply to one, you know, sex or race or anything. There's so many. Some are religious based, some are politically driven, some are based on career, if you're educated or not. There's so many of these groups that are so against the other, right? And yes, we have content creators that do that. Kevin Samuels did not strike me as one of those guys.
Can I point something out, though?
Sure.
I feel like the vast majority of women who did not like Kevin Samuels, like what he had to say, were very well-educated women.
Yeah.
Because I know one point that he led with a lot was yes, you're very educated, right? You have money. You're able to hold it down by yourself. You're independent, right? But your looks though, right? Like, okay, you're saying you're a 10. Well, okay, I'm gonna give it to you raw. You look like a 6. I think he was just really trying to address things down to the core, like to be very real. Like, yes, you are this, but I'm letting you know your energy, your feminine energy, right? How you talk, the way you look. This is what men see first. Right. And as far as like what men are seeking, they're seeking someone who's supportive. Like,
right. I mean, overall, you're right. He was trying to highlight the truth behind what men actually want versus what women assume men want.
Yes.
You know, and the assumptions can be all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes women can say men just only want one thing, right? Or there are no good men out there. They only want to sleep around, etc. But the truth of what Kevin used to say, based on what I've seen, because I didn't see a lot, was he wanted women to know, like, listen, whether you make 6 figures or 7 figures a year, whether you have 2-3 degrees, men are not interested in that. They do want you to be, of course, able to hold a conversation.
Yeah.
They want you to be able to hold your own or hold them down if they're unable to do so. But when it comes to heterosexual men looking for a heterosexual woman, there's just a certain guideline that men tend to find attractive, and that's what I got the most from Kevin. He highlighted that, like he didn't want to beat around the bush. He let women know, like, listen, man, when it comes to your attitude, like you said, your nurturing ability, the energy that you put out, whether it's a feminine, supportive energy. Because again, we're talking about heterosexual men, so we're talking about people who are interested in starting a family.
Right.
They're gonna look for those qualities, right?
Right.
Whether you're a nurturer, you're someone that cares about children, and you're supportive, etc. And I'm not gonna get too deep in his philosophy,
right?
Because I don't want to speak for him, but I did get that vibe from him, and I'm only repeating this because I know that when you're talking to today's modern women, it doesn't always sit well. It almost makes them feel like you're trying to oppress or suppress them, or you're trying to talk down against their accomplishments, like you said. Maybe they don't understand like what Kevin's approach was, or his message was rather, based on his approach. But I digress.
He was trying to be he wanted women to be very realistic with themselves as well.
Yeah, basically,
right?
He wanted everyone, but particularly women,
right,
to have a high level of self-awareness.
So, yes, I agree with that.
The difference between perception and reality.
Yeah.
Because we all like to think of ourselves as something or someone important, right?
Right.
But that perception, or the perspective that we have, is relative. It depends on where we are and who's around us and what we're doing, right? We might be incredibly important at work, but in a certain environment, like, no one cares about our job title and what we've done at work, and so we have to be able to understand how that plays into our day-to-day. So I think he was trying to highlight that as well. There's a lot of things I can do, but if I walk into a room and those people have no interest, or better yet, no need for what I do, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just stating stats that they can care less about.
Right.
So when it comes to love, dating, see, that's a different dynamic than career and politics and all these other things that, a lot of people kind of pride themselves on holding and having titles in those areas. But this is the last that we're going to break down regarding what he taught, because he has a lot of content that you guys can still kind of binge on. As far as his passing, though,
yes.
Before we end this video, based on everything we just said, you can probably understand why there's such a polarizing effect, why there are people who feel like
reaction to it.
Man, I didn't care for what he had to say anyway, so I'm not going to pretend like I miss him. There are people who are doing that. But then there are people who are like, man, we need as many voices as possible. Let live, especially black voices. We need people to speak up in a way that allows us to engage with each other, because he was doing live streams. He allowed people to call in on video, and the streams were like crazy. I remember seeing a stream one time with nearly, I think, 15,000 people on a live stream, and his numbers were through the roof. You know, NBC, like what we're posting on the screen, 1.4 million subscribers. So he was really growing a base. And keep in mind, one thing we didn't mention, he's 56. He was 56 years old.
Yeah, 56.
So we're not talking about like a young, silly YouTuber who does stunts and pranks.
He looks good for his age, yeah.
Right. This was a very, very established man. So most of his followers were middle-aged, early 30s, early 40s, early 50s. To get that many people interested in what you're saying, like I said earlier, they have to share a large part of his beliefs.
Right.
So guys, what we need you to do, leave your comments regarding his passing. Do you know who Kevin Samuels was? Did you care for his message? Did you agree? Did you disagree? As far as the people that are like, in some cases, almost celebrating his death, what do you think about that? You know, we might do a separate video just focusing on that aspect, but we'd like to know what your thoughts are. And also, do you think in any way the things he shared were important for you or anyone that you know? What did you learn? Condolences to his family. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, share the video, leave your comments below, and let us know what you think about this. It is your boy Gamma signing out with the lovely
Juju.
And until next time,
escape the Matrix.